Hey there, beauties and bees. Welcome back to the show. Today is a story all about warnings and about respect. We visit Samoa and get to know its rich, beautiful heritage and its spirits. In Samoa, there is this really powerful concept of VA. It's the idea that relationships can create a sacred place. The space between ancestors, the living, the land, the water, and so on isn't empty, but is full of something more than life, a sort of active energy. And this must be respected. If it's not, there are spiritual consequences. We are going to specifically look at the Telisa, and more specifically still, a type of Telisa called Telisa. This is a jealous, powerful spirit, one often associated with heat or flames. In some stories, she takes a human lover, but her jealousy eventually consumes her. And when she feels her man's eyes are wandering or his heart is starting to cool, she causes illness, burning, and sometimes death. Today, we take a look at what happens when she spots a rival. So let's jump right into it and learn just what can happen when lines are crossed and rules are broken. I'll be honest with you, for this channel specifically, I have to Google some deeply questionable stuff for research, like genuinely disturbing censor. Like, why is this person searching this kind of stuff? And it's literally my job. But try explaining that to whoever might be monitoring your connection. So yeah, I looked into online privacy more than the average person probably would. And that is what led me to CyberGhost VPN, and they are sponsoring today's video. But I also want to tell you that this is something I actually use. What won me over is just how simple it is. You turn it on, it encrypts your traffic and routes it through a secure server, and that's it. It just runs quietly while you do your thing. And this isn't some niche tool. Over 38 million people use CyberGhost worldwide. It has thousands of reviews on Trustpilot, rated by over 23,000 real users. A few things I specifically like: servers in 100+ countries, so you can change your online location in 2 clicks and unblock libraries of 40 streaming platforms. It's also great if you travel, and one subscription covers up to 7 devices, so your whole setup is protected, not just one. And you can even share with your family and friends. And the price is also one of the reasons why I am using it through the link in the description. It's just around $2 a month. And honestly, when I saw that, I thought, why wouldn't everyone just have this? It's less than basically anything. For something that protects your privacy every single day, it feels like one of the easiest decisions you can make. Plus, there's a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it with zero risk and see for yourself. Link is in the description, and I really do think you will like it. All right, let's get back to today's story. This is a story from a viewer called Yuki. She wanted to share a story from her cousin Lupe. When Lupe was younger, she experienced something very strange near a river by her village. Lupe and a few other girls had gone to the river to swim in the afternoon. Everything was normal at first. The girls were laughing, talking, and just being silly. Totally normal kid stuff. As the sun started to set, the friends started to say goodbye one by one. Dinner would be ready, and they needed to get home. Lupe wasn't ready to go. It was a beautiful evening, and she wanted to enjoy the area more as the light turned silvery and the flowers started to release their night scent. It was a pleasant, charming area, a special gathering place. And this is important because, as we've said, places hold special meaning. Leaving the river to dry off, Lupe let down her hair. It had become badly knotted in the water. Trying to run her fingers through it, they snagged painfully on tangles. She went to her bag and took out her comb, and there in the moonlight she started to comb her hair in the sacred place. And that is when things changed. Suddenly the air felt different. It was like the river slowed and became quieter. The birds singing their evening songs stuttered and stopped. She noticed something. Someone standing at the edge of the clearing. It was a girl. At first, Lupe thought it was just another villager who had come to enjoy the river. But something felt off, wrong. Have you ever had that feeling of leaving the house and somewhere deep down you know that something just isn't right? Then you find out you left a candle burning, or the stove on, or like a gut feeling that tells you not to take a certain way home. Or even stronger still, the feeling deep in your stomach when you know something terrible is about to happen. It was a powerful, instinctual feeling just like that, one that could not be explained. The girl was beautiful, so beautiful it was actually hard to look at her directly. Her hair was long and dark, and even though there was no breeze, it moved as if it had a life of its own. And Lupe knew local legends. She'd listened to these stories at her elker's knees, and so at once the name came to her, the Telisa. She also realized the terrible mistake she had made by combing her hair in that sacred place. The girl observed her eyes, utterly confident, strong, weighing. Then she spoke. "Why are you doing that?" Her voice was soft, like two petals being rubbed together, but oddly, her lips didn't shape the words. Instead, it felt like they came from within Lupe's own mind. Lupe, frozen in place. Her words could not create an answer, and her fingers were locked around the comb still in her hair. As the girl's eyes moved to the comb, Lupe was reminded of the terrible rule she had broken. Her body began to tremble, and the girl, she moved closer. One step, then another, then another. She didn't make a sound. Nothing around them did, and her feet left no prints in the sandbanks of the river. Knowing the awful transgression she had made against the girl, the Teles, Lupe tried to apologize, but she found she couldn't speak. No sound came out. Her lips moved wordlessly. The girl looked at Lupe for a long time as though she were studying her. Then she said the words Lupe would never forget. "You were told," and she was, her whole life. Lupe had been told about rivers and hair, about disrespecting sacred places, about the Telisa. It all came rushing back to her. The warnings, the stories, just like a flood down a river after a storm. The girl's expression changed. She wasn't angry. She didn't even look menacing. She was just disappointed. But that changed quickly. At that moment, Lupe felt something hit her. It wasn't a physical force like a punch, but something more like a sap of energy that made her whole body go weak. She fell to her knees, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't gather the strength to climb to her feet again. It was like a nightmare. Then she felt fingers on her scalp. They scraped across the crown of her head, gathering clumps of hair, and then tugging harshly. It felt like her scalp was being pulled in 100 directions all at once. She tried to raise her arms, but they were as heavy as river rocks. She tried to open her mouth to scream, but all she could manage was a weak gurgling. It was as though the river itself was speaking through her. The air shifted, cold, dense, and wrong. And then there was a feeling so terrible Lupe still shudders to speak about it. It was as though the same sharp, strong fingers began to peel away her scalp, splitting it like an overripe guava, so that an opening formed. An opening into which a cold presence tried to crawl. Lupe shuddered, and her mouth screamed, totally silently. Meanwhile, Lupe's aunt had noticed that she still hadn't come home. She looked at the front door and saw her daughter's friends. She asked them why Lupe wasn't with them. "She stayed by the river," they answered. Lupe's mother pushed her feet into her sandals and left her house at once to go and look for her daughter. She found her by the swimming spot at the river, and immediately she saw that something was wrong. Lupe was twisting left and right, up and down, as if there were ropes tied to each one of her limbs, and they were being pulled in all directions. Lupe's mother screamed for her, but her daughter said nothing, just moved like she was in a violent trance. Every now and then, one of Lupe's hands would break free and claw her scalp. Lupe's mother screamed her name again. She called on her ancestors. It was like a string on a marionette had been cut. Lupe fell to the sand. There was total quiet. It was too quiet. Lupe's mother's panting sounded as loud as thunder in her ears. But there was something else to the surrounding silence, the anticipation of something listening very closely. As her mother kneeled by Lupe's side, brushing fingers over her face and arms, Lupe came round and managed to sit up. Her eyes were wide and unfocused, and her chest was heaving like she'd just run for miles. When Lupe's mother put her palm to her breastbone, she could feel her daughter's heart pounding beneath. From the darkness of the river, eyes watched on. But when Lupe's mother looked up, there was nothing there. The world came back into focus. The flower smells, the croaking frogs, the evening bird song, and the gentle bubbling of the river. Lupe couldn't explain what had happened to her, and as her family and friends gathered around her, she only managed to retell her experience in disjointed, confused fits and bursts, her face soaked with tears. They brought her to a healer who was gentle and kind with Lupe. The healer sat quietly for some time, considering. Then, as the family watched with wide eyes, they went to the window and spoke into the air outside. They asked for forgiveness on Lupe's behalf, that the spirit please forgive the girl that she had forgotten. Lupe told her cousin Yuki that she remembered lying there listening to the healer speak and feeling as though there was a heavy stone within her head, as though perhaps something still remained. The Telisa, even if she couldn't see it, it was a feeling that never left her, a headache that never went away. Lupe never goes to the river anymore, neither do any of her friends, and her beautiful black hair to this day is gathered into a tight, neat bun. Samoan spirits or ghosts are often connected to respect, especially for elders, places of worship, or sacred places. For example, today we looked at a type of Telisa, a spirit closely connected to cultural rules, forbidden or sacred areas or ancestral lands. These spirits appear when someone breaks a rule or otherwise shows disrespect. In Samoan culture, the world isn't just what we can touch and see. It's layered. There are the living ancestors, spirits, and then other spiritual forces in the land, sea, forests, and so on. The Telisa is a type of Tenisa, and the Tenisa belong to a group known as Itu. These are spirits in the Samoan tradition, beings who live between worlds. It too aren't all good or all bad. Some protect families while others create chaos or can do harm, especially if they are disrespected. Tana are usually women, and they are often seen with red dresses. They have long hair, are sometimes said to float above the ground, and they are also known to lure men like sirens. It's believed that they are also incredibly jealous creatures, often targeting women who are pretty with long hair. The origin of this one spirit, the Telisa, is another chilling story. First, we have to learn a little more about Samoan culture. In Samoan villages, there is a ceremonial village maiden, chief, or princess. She's called a tau. She's sort of like the chosen one who represents the family and the village in important events. It's a position of honor, discipline, and grace. The tau learns traditional dance and cultural practices from a very young age. One dance is known as the Sa Samoa. Is the tau a skilled dancer? She can capture the attention of an entire village without saying a single word. Dances take place at what's called a malale. This is where ceremonies and other important events happen. The male is a place of deep respect and carries a strong spiritual presence. So here is the origin of the Telisa, the type of Tenesa that attacked Lupe. Long ago, before she became a spirit being, the Telisa was a typo, a ceremonial princess of her village. She was known for her beauty in every neighboring village. She was the most beautiful typo anyone had ever seen. Nobody dared miss one of her dances. They were just too special. When she performed the Sifa Samoa, the dance I mentioned, the whole village would fall silent. Even the wind would still in the trees. Respect. Her hands flowed like water. Her feet were gentle as the bees who flew from flower to flower. And her hair. It fell like night across her shoulders and down her back. Beautiful. It was so dark it ate the light of the torches burning around the male as it moved with a life of its own. Some of the elders whispered, "That girl's beauty is too powerful. It is not of this world." Eventually, it was time for the Tao to get married. Suitors came from all around, chief sons, warriors, famous craftsmen. But one by one, they were rejected because she had already chosen someone, a village boy. He was charming, patient. He spoke to her gently and loved her not as a symbol, but as a person. His name was Tuaval. They got married. The whole village celebrated, and the girl was the happiest she had ever been. Finally, someone loved her. Not for her role, but for herself. But happiness didn't last. One day when the girl was returning from an errand, she heard familiar laughter coming from the forest. It was her husband, smiling. She followed the sound, but her smile dropped when she saw what was happening. Her husband was with another girl. She was beautiful, almost as beautiful as the typo herself. She wore a white dress and had long, smooth, shining hair all the way down her back, even longer than the typos. Something broke inside her. She was furious. All her life, her beauty was the most famous thing about her. To many, it was the only thing about her, her whole identity. And now, here was her new husband with another woman. She had been humiliated. She had been disrespected. Quietly, she snuck up on the woman, and when she was close enough, she struck like a viper. She grabbed her hair, and drawing a knife from her belt, she began to cut, hack, 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 cutting away the thick bands of shining black hair. The woman screamed, so did her husband, but nothing could stop the attack. The typo moved with unnatural strength, full of rage. "You thought you were as beautiful as me?" the typo whispered into the girl's ear. "Now look at you." The woman lay still on the ground. Her husband begged the typo to forgive him, his mistress totally forgotten on the ground. But any love the typo felt before was gone. Scattered on the ground like the strands of hair, her husband stood and ran, leaving both women alone in the forest. In the distance, villagers passed by. Some laughed, dogs barked, but the typo could only focus on her deep humiliation and the terrible thing she had done. With that, she turned the knife in her hand and drove it into her chest. As she died, she cursed her husband, the girl herself, and dying in a cloud of such strong hate, she did not pass on as a human, but became an I-2, a spirit. The Telisa, maybe the most dangerous, the most savage, the most jealous of all the Telisa, her eyes are sharp and they watch out for one thing only: disrespect. And that's exactly what she saw Lupe do. Disrespect her by combing her hair at the sacred place of the river. Lupe's ashamed the Telisa once more. In Samoa, hair is more than just appearance. It represents identity, pride, and power. And for Lupe to let hers down in such a sacred place, well, it didn't go unnoticed by Telisa. The thing that stands out to me the most about Samoan culture is the idea that no action happens in isolation. There is a web of relationships not just across space but across time. What happened to Lupe is terrible, terrifying. I think what we can take from the story is the way actions, in this case the actions of the original Taupo girl and her unfaithful husband, can echo across time. How pain can cause more pain. I wish Lupe well, and I'm so grateful to Yuki for sharing the story. And I think it also highlights how elders, guides, or generally in-tune people within communities can help lead us out of dark places or help us understand our world and even beyond our world. What do you think? I really want to hear if there are similar practices where you are. It's time to say goodbye for now, but I'd like to think we do a little bit of that here in our Beauty and the Beast community, leading each other, shining a bit of light even as we step together into dark places. So, thanks and see you next time. Bye-bye. And before you go, check out the link in the description if you want to try CyberGhost VPN. They are offering a special deal for viewers of this channel, and it comes to about $2 a month. Plus, there is a 45-day money-back guarantee, so it's completely risk-free.